video will depict a brief history and explanation of the Dred Scott decision, a choice made by the Supreme Court in 1857. We'll also explain how it affected the upbringing of the Civil War. This guy right here is Dred Scott. For now, we'll call him Scott. Scott is a slave from Missouri. Not too long ago, he and his owner went to Wisconsin to do some work, and that is a state that prohibits slavery. Although he's back at Missouri now, Scott believes he should no longer be a slave and instead be a legal citizen. In other words, Scott wants to fight for his freedom. So he goes to the Supreme Court. In the Supreme Court, there are guys that are in charge of the trials. We call them Chief Justices. Right now it's 1857 and there are 9 of them. One of these 9 is Chief Justice Roger Taney. We'll call him Taney. He's from Maryland, a border state that allows slavery. He didn't like that, so many people assumed that Taney would support Scott. The Supreme Court wants to ask 2 important questions. Did Scott have the right to plead his case? And also, was he free just by spending time in Wisconsin? However, Taney wants them to also ask, did Congress have the power to make slavery-related decisions, and was the Missouri Compromise constitutional? The Missouri Compromise was made to keep balance between northern and southern territory. It let Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state into the Union. It also divided some unclaimed territory between the North and South. The Missouri Compromise would be listed as unconstitutional if Congress didn't have the power to make decisions involving slavery. And if this was the case, then Scott would not be a free man simply by staying in Wisconsin. Taney finally proposes and delivers the Dred Scott decision on March 6, 1857. Here's the important part. This decision stated that African Americans could never be U.S. citizens, and that the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional. The court, with Taney's arguments, had ruled that African Americans could never be a U.S. citizen, so Scott wasn't allowed to plead his case, because he was not a citizen. And the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional, since with African American slaves being labeled as property, taking them away from their slaveholders was a violation of the Fifth Amendment. The results of this were intense. Slaveholders and other Southerners were now overjoyed, because the scales were tilting in their favor. It was extremely beneficial to them because the territory that was once divided by the Missouri Compromise was now all open to slavery. However, those in the North were very upset. They considered the decision a false judgment and a moral assassination of race. The Dred Scott decision had divided the North and South further, and Northerners' anger could have ignited a passion for war.